Welcome to Adults Only Comedy Berlin. Today it's just me, and I'm back in Berlin. Back home, baby. Wanting to do a little bit of a wrap up of the Melbourne International Comedy Festival 2024. What went down, my experiences. As I'm talking, I can hear I sound really congested. So I did kind of get a bit sick. No surprises in the last week of the festival. Most people were getting sick at the end of the third week. Not just people in the festival. It seemed like everyone around me, everyone's child, was also getting ill, and therefore I also got sick. But I managed to hold out until it was really over before I started sounding horrible. Thank God. But look, it was it was a 5 week adventure, leaving Berlin 4 days after my partner got out of hospital with a retina reattachment surgery, which was, pretty horrible, pretty stressful for him. I don't think I've spoken about it, but he basically just started seeing some blurry, like a blurry patch in his eye, and then was doing a bit of research on it, and after a couple of days, he'd booked in to see it at like a proper ophthalmologist. But then with the research he was doing, he was like, it does say that maybe I should just go to a hospital. And so he rushed to the hospital. I was at a show. And yeah, when he got there, like the worst possibility was what it was, which was his retina had detached completely. And so they had to do this surgery like as soon as possible, which was the next morning, where they drill two holes in your eye, and then they laser the tears in the retina, and then so they rejoin it all, and then they fill the back of the eye with gas so that it props up the retina, so that as it's healing, it stays in the right place and doesn't like crinkle and fall back down where it was, or wherever the fuck it was. And and so obviously very uncomfortable to have your eye operated on. He was completely under anesthetic, but the hospital in Marzahn was super depressing, and very little English spoken. The doctors, of course, as in Germany always seems to be the case, the doctors speak English, but the nurses were just, some fine examples of lacking bedside manner and just German hospitality, really. The coldness, the rudeness, the you should know the rules, and it's like, well, they change every time we see a different nurse here. Why are you angry when we're not sure? Really horrible time. I haven't seen my partner so depressed. It was really bad. Anyway, he gets out of hospital, and 4 days later, I go to Australia, and he, extremely short-sighted already, and then with one eye out, and the situation, like, you need to sort of stay on one side, or you need to be leaning with your head forward. So just like a really crappy place to be in psychologically, and then, and not being able to see very well, not even being able to wear his glasses. So anyway, enough about him. God love him, but it wasn't an easy journey to Australia with that happening. I'd also really hit a point of burnout. Like a few days before that happened to him, I was really overwhelmed with everything that was going on, and I'd started the year with, hey, I'm going to take some more time out for myself, but I hit a wall so hard that I actually took a couple of nights off from my shows and was able to get replacements, but I was in a really destroyed space, just not wanting to do anything. And I'm not sure how much that links into some sort of more deeper emotional issues that I was going through, which is, deeper stuff, which I'm not going to get into here, I guess. But just, stuff about, looking at the future. And I think if you start I think that's one of the big learnings from the last 5 weeks being in Australia, is that, like, there's a quote that I read from, Bertrand Russell, this kind of like English philosopher in the, what was it, like early 1900s. And one of my favorite quotes of his is the desire for, or a demand or a desire for certainty is an intellectual vice. And yeah, the more we're trying to get certainty around things, the more we suffer, right? Because you can't be certain about anything. So, I was getting to a bit of I think I was just exhausted with working too much, and then looking at my future, and also looking down the barrel of getting my eggs frozen, which will be happening. I was supposed to be doing it this month, but just with holidays booked and the treatment with the hormones, needing to inject yourself multiple times a day, and needing to have access to those hormones refrigerated. Yep, I can't do it this month. I can't do it the next month. I won't be able to do it during August, that's for sure, during Edinburgh. So that's now locked in my head. Well, no, it's locked in for September. I'm going to get that done. So in terms of, motherhood aspirations, at least I can make sure that if I want to do it with my genetics, then that will be quite likely in a few years by doing this procedure. But yes, so I think, yeah, the big learning is like, hey, just and as always, as I've come back to this awareness constantly, but it's just about being present and obviously looking after your future and stuff. But if everything's pretty good right now, as soon as you start spiraling, like spiraling does sound like it's going more into the past, but I feel like future spiraling is kind of the worst, unless you really haven't dealt with your past. Future spiraling's the worst, because you can just, you can make the future as bad as you want to in your head, and get as down about that as possible. So, let's not do that. Let's be present and let's be positive. So anyway, that was kind of the headspace that I was in before I went to Oz. And then look, within the first week of my shows, I had about a week there to like acclimatize and see family more consistently, which was really lovely. And then as soon as my shows started happening, within the first week, I was already making money. So I already paid for my flights and show registration by just the first week of ticket sales, which was amazing. And some of the info that I got around how the Melbourne International Comedy Festival works means that I probably shouldn't be saying that so openly and happily. A lot of the artists at my level and above, in terms of like tenure and recognition, just by being a part of the festival in a festival event, like a festival managed venue, it seems like, from what I'm hearing, the rent to do that, as much as it's great exposure, the cost that you have to, the costs of room rental and stuff are just insane. And so a lot of the comics that I know, who were in festival managed venues, only started making money in their last week of the festival, because rents are like $9,000 for a month, and that's insane. Like, and yes, you do get sort of, you get more opportunities, and you get way more promotion being in a festival managed venue. But apparently this year was one of the first years, I'm not sure if it's one of the first years, where some of the bigger well-known acts from Australia were opting to not be part of festival managed venues because they just run at such a loss, or just like barely make money. So me getting my venue, Fosse's Distillery, Lygon Street. Oh my gosh, they are so lovely, such a lovely family of people to work with. I don't think I'm exposing anything. It was free venue hire, which I am very grateful for. The idea was that, I'm bringing in people and they want to set it up as a venue for events. So I was, their first Melbourne Comedy Festival act, and me doing 2 shows a night, and it was great. I had low expectations as to what I could achieve. I was hoping, look, let's hope for 10 people at both shows each night. That I'm bringing 20 people in per night, hopefully, and that's on Thursdays and Sundays, which are quieter days. And it ended up on average that I brought in around 20 people per show per night. So getting 40 people through the door. The venue space, it could theoretically be packed to 40 people in capacity, but as it was set up, having 20 people in it felt very full, and a few nights I had close to 30, and it was, yeah, it felt very full. So in a good way, but yeah, always very comfortable, and so yeah, I brought a business for them, and had very very nice shows, and they really looked after me in terms of equipment and just energy, and yeah, just very happy with my venue, and so on a financial level, I made enough money to cover my costs and then to make it an actual profitable venture that makes sense for me to continue doing. So I will be coming back to Melbourne for the comedy festival. Yeah, I don't see why I wouldn't ever. Like, it just makes sense. Obviously I get to see my family. That's the priority, and my friends. But yeah, massive. Like such a boost, like a bonus, a boost to be able to make money. So that was great. Also, my shows in Berlin, which I was producing from Australia, continued to run very very nicely. So good stuff business wise, guys. But I had some awesome audiences, really great audiences. I had. Melbourne, I don't think the Melbourne comedy scene is really known for dark humor, but I definitely attracted some real dark comedy lovers, which is good, because I do tend to get pretty dark. And with a name like Cream Pie Curious or Cream Pie Clarity, it doesn't always warn people of that. I did still get quite a few Germans coming to my show, because I'm one of the few acts listed as a German act, because, yep, the work was developed in Germany, and I am technically a German-based artist. So that was interesting. And those audience members, usually at the end of the show, they're like, wow, well, that wasn't really what we expected. But then we would have a nice chat in German, and yeah, just kind of smooth out the edges. And we both would end up feeling good about the time shared together, I think. But had a lot of couples come in who had met on Field, which means, yeah, the names are working. Cream pie clarity people. I don't know. Also, a lot of couples in my audience that had met at sex parties, even had like the runner of a sex party come to one of my shows, and which is pretty cool. Yeah, had a lot of like people who, play with non-monogamy as a concept. There was a Colombian woman who popped in who has been married for ages and has, been open with her partner for quite a while, or on and off. I don't know. There was a dude who came in, a Persian guy who is non-monogamous, and his rule is that they can only play once a month with someone else, which is an interesting rule. I've been pondering that within my own non-monogamy. Yeah, I don't know. Once a month. I don't know if that would mean, yeah, like if you have another partner, if you just see them once a month, is that, I don't know. It's an interesting one. Feels a lot more constricted than what I'd like, but at the same time, I don't know. Yeah, the whole non-monogamy thing, I had very few inclinations towards exploring that when I was away, but I gotta say, yeah, having a sick partner really kind of dampens that. I don't know, you just feel kind of like you're worried about them and their mental health, so like fucking around with other people, it just feels kind of wrong. But that said, like, all power to him if he could, get some kind of distraction and feel good with me away. But also being in Australia, it's just like, I've got so much family and so many friends that I need to spend time with. Actually dedicating time to going and fucking someone, it just wasn't a priority. And by the time I was thinking I could, I ended up getting sick. So anyway, that's to say that my non-monogamy was very unutilized in Australia, but had some cute little flirtations, which was fun. But yeah, back to some of my audience stories. I also had quite a few people who came to both of my shows, or even who came to both of my shows and then came back again for another one. I did my first show back in Berlin last night, and was talking with Maya, and she's like, yeah, Anna, your audiences do tend to have a higher quantity of particular solo men. And that was definitely represented very, very heavily in my Australian audiences as well. Yeah, one of the guys who I had quite a few people see both my shows, and one of the guys, and they do tend to share some very personal aspects of themselves post-show, which is cool. I really like that people feel that comfortable to share with me. But one guy was very excited about my pee bit where I talk about getting peed on, and he was like, he wanted to share with me that he really gets into that. A lot of eye contact as he was telling me this, but he really gets into pee, but not for the humiliation vibe, and that's actually, like, he's met a lot of people, and he's done this with a lot of people, and he doesn't like the humiliation vibe. He does it for the intimacy. A lot of eye contact as he said that. That was quite intense. I was like, okay, yeah, intimacy, yeah, for sure. And look, I have to admit, if you yeah, the intimacy thing, I guess I could get that. But I don't know. Yeah. In sort of like a one night stand situation, being intimate with someone whilst they're peeing on you. I don't know. I guess the intimacy, yes. To me, intimacy, definitely. I suppose you can have intimacy with people that you don't know very well. You just got to really like commit to it. But yeah, some interesting characters came through. One guy even forged a ticket. I realized this after the show and kind of clued on as he was showing me this, clearly nothing to do with any of my vendors, like ticket vendors, formatting. He showed me this document that showed his ticket and these other tickets, and I was looking at it, and I was like, this doesn't look legit at all, and I hadn't seen his name. And so I asked his name during crowd work, because I looked at this ticket, and I was like, yeah, cool. And then I'd asked his name during crowd work, and I checked both my website and the Melbourne Comedy Festival ticketing service report, and yeah, he hadn't bought a ticket. Someone forged a ticket, and he was the kind of guy who I asked him, so what are you about? And he was like, oh, well, I look like a rock star. People say I look like a rock star, but I'm in finance. And I'm like, oh, yeah? I don't know. I told him that he looked like a serial killer. But yes, I then so last audience story, I also had a dude who, it was this table of wonderfully enthusiastic gay men, and it was a couple and one guy who... I hope they were on I'm pretty sure they were all on ketamine. And the older dude that was at the table, who was in the couple, and his partner was 25 years younger than him. But he, the older dude, after my show, said to me, oh, Anna, I just want to say, like, you're very open, and you've got really great energy, and I was reading you during the show, and I want to tell you that, you are gonna have 2 children, and it's gonna happen after you. Hamburg kept coming to me as a city when I was watching you. Hamburg. It's not gonna be. It's gonna be because of Hamburg that you have 2 children. And then I turned to his mates at the table. I'm like, what's happening? They're like, oh yeah, he sees, he reads the future, and that's just what he does. And look, I've known him for 8 years, and I'm just reconciled to the fact that he's always right. And I was like, okay, thanks, mate. But since telling people this, as a good friend told me yesterday, yeah, Anna, he listened to an hour of me talking about my aspirations for motherhood and that I live in Germany. It's not like he just met me and told me that. He had an hour to listen to me talk about my situation. So to, whatever. I don't doubt this guy's authentic experience of seeing some kind of truth in me, but it is a bit weird to tell someone what you see without getting their consent first. I think that's always a bit tricky. I don't know if you've ever had some kind of psychic give you information that you didn't even ask for. Because it's hard for that to not fuck with you just a little bit, What if I never go to Hamburg again? And it changes how I feel about going to Hamburg now, what? Yeah, but look, looking at my notes, what else? My parents also came along to my shows, which was very sweet. And my brother saw me for the first time. And my parents actually came to my new show twice. So they've now seen my solo and my work in progress twice, which is so sweet. The second time my mum and my stepdad came to my work in progress, it was a really just an awkward audience, and they weren't really laughing consistently at things, at least not audibly. And so there was my mum laughing hard at all the jokes to make up for the general kind of quietness. It's like, oh, thanks, mum, which tied in quite nicely with when she. Oh, and she asked me about, someone seeing my show, and I was like, yeah, they came, and, they had a good time. And she was like, yeah, but do you think they were really having a good time, or do you think they were just, faking it? It's like, what are you talking about? Faking it? Like, why would you bring this element of doubt? Like as a performer, why would you cast aspersions on the authenticity of someone who's come to see me's, experience of my show? And she's like, oh no, it's just, I know because I've faked it before. Like, what? Like, what have you? And she's like, no, I've laughed at a show before because people, because I wanted to make sure it looked like I was having a good time. And I'm like, Jesus, mum, thanks for making me doubt everything I ever do. And yeah, it was quite funny that I'm not sure if she then, when she did come along and like laugh extra hard for me, if there was also a part of it where she was both supporting me, but also being like, see, I can fake it too. But it's like, but come on, like you were enjoying those jokes. I know you. Oh, you laughed at them normally before. Oh, now I'm doubting everything. Yeah, but look, the hanging out in Melbourne. So great to see my friends. But what was the coolest thing about the Melbourne Festival was, I would say, the artists bar, because when you're doing solo shows, and there aren't that many other lineup shows to jump on, like at Edinburgh Fringe. It means that in doing solo shows, you don't have your colleagues to then, bounce stuff off or sort of lament or, commiserate or celebrate. And, but with the artists bar, it's like you do get to see everyone every night, or not everyone, but you get to see some of your mates every night that are doing similar things to you. And, yeah, I got to meet some really cool people, which was very nice. Got to meet some famous comedians and be a bit silly with them and have good chats. So that was pretty cool. Don't want to name drop, but some people that are on TV and got Netflix specials, and looking forward to hanging out with them again. And yeah, and really feel like this festival, I don't know, has just made my connections with the Melbourne comedy scene a lot stronger. Like, I already know quite a few people from each time that I go to Melbourne. I sort of, build up that community a bit more. And this felt the most cohesive because, of the artists bar. And the closing party was just wonderful. It was magic. And good stuff. Also enjoyed the Melbourne food scene, as always, just spectacular. If you go to Melbourne, the restaurants, the food are just marvelous. Like, super, super good food. I would say like top three expensive picks would be, we went out for dinner with Brown Women Comedy. I keep wanting to call them Brown Funny Women, but that's not the name. I hung out with them quite a bit during the festival. Gory B she got flown over to Melbourne for that lineup show, which is awesome. And so I got to have a Berlin buddy in Melbourne, which was really lovely, and got to meet all of that crew too. So they went out for dinner pre-closing party to Super Normal, but I'd already stuffed down some dirty a souvlaki, and so didn't eat there, but then ended up going to dinner to Super Normal with my parents for our last dinner. So highly recommend Super Normal. Excellent non-sushi Japanese. Also Ronnie's, if you're ever in the city for a lunch. Oh my God, Ronnie's does just excellent pasta and shit. Fucking super good. Again, these places are proper expensive, but superb food. And also, what is it? Pita Pipo, the gelato place. Unbelievable. Worth queuing up and getting it. And then my new favorite late night spot to eat, for sure, is a place called. I hadn't enjoyed the appropriateness of its name until I double checked the spelling of it before I started this recording. But it's late, open quite late. I think they take their last order at 2 a.m. Chinese place on Swanston Street called Bang Bang. I think it's Biang Biang, but I think it's Bang Bang. That's enough. Bang Bang. Yeah. Really great pulled noodles and dumplings and salads and shit. Oh, so good. Salads, one salad with like pickled fungus and stuff like that. Oh my God, so good. But look, I think that's about all I'm going to say. I feel like Melbourne still needs to get it a bit together with their alcohol-free offerings. Having one alcohol-free beer and a couple of soft drinks. I don't think it's enough, guys. I don't think it's enough. I think there should be a couple more, but there are some good places. And also the other big kind of revelation that I came to whilst I was in Australia. I don't know if there's been any comedy in this podcast recording, but it's more about sharing the festival with you. Which, by the way, the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, I read in like The Age or The Guardian, is technically now the biggest comedy festival in the world, as Just for Laughs has just gone into, what is it called when they're going bankrupt? There's a term for it. And going into, I've forgotten the term, but being managed, you know what I mean? And so Just for Laughs is going into, solvency or whatever. And technically the Edinburgh Fringe Festival is a performing arts festival, not a comedy festival. So Melbourne International Comedy Festival is number one. But yeah, whilst I was there, the other big revelation was I started the year not knowing what I was excited about. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm doing the Melbourne Festival again. I'm doing Edinburgh again. Cool. Got a partner. Yay. Like, what am I actually excited about? What am I going to do that's like brand new and exciting that I'm going to work towards? And of course, I'm just going to keep working on comedy, and I'm excited to do. I'm grateful for everything I'm doing. It's just what's going to be the new exciting thing I've not done before. And that is, I have also stopped taking chemical drugs regularly. The occasional bit of LSD, all right. The occasional mushroom trip, that's organic, but occasional, that's like once a week. People will be like, that's not occasional, says my mum, who hopefully doesn't listen to this. No, it's fine if she does. But I'm going to learn how to drive, guys. I'm going to learn how to drive because I'm motivated to be able to drive out to some, secluded Airbnb for a couple of days and be able to just get there and like take food and take water and not be reliant on public transport in any way. So also being able to go on tour and do things like that, just be able to, and I think in my long-term view, I look forward to being able to be a little bit more out in nature and just going out to secluded spots and taking some time out. That said, yesterday was my first day back in Berlin with my partner out of the apartment, me alone. And I went cuckoo, man. Like, I hadn't been alone for that long, for over 6 weeks. Not used to it. Like, I like my solitude, but I was fucking going nuts. If there'd been a camera in this apartment watching what I was doing, it was just like this manic, and it's not like my apartment was left in a bad state, being away for 6 weeks. I really like a certain level of cleanliness. It was just like, I just was like tidying up things and just, I couldn't sit and focus and do anything concertedly for a period of time. Yeah. Anyway, I have contacted Charité for an ADHD assessment, and I'm going to do a little bit more work on trying to get some of that. But also, I got... Also, I got given, apparently there's these daffodil pills. It's like concentrated daffodil that gives you like way more focus. A comic gave me half a pill, which I didn't take when he gave it to me because I was already on a little bit of LSD, which I bought in Australia, by the way, thanks to a very generous accommodating, supportive audience member. Love my audiences, man. Love my audiences. Also received some homemade weed gummies from him. Homemade weed gummies. They were even the shape of like little gummy bears. Anyway, guys, this has been the wrap up. I'm very excited to be back in Berlin. The sky, the trees. It's going to be 29 degrees today, and it is the 30th of April. Tomorrow is May Day, baby, May Day, which means the start of summer is fucking here. Guys, I'm excited to be, just doing my shows here, working on new material. I'm excited. I've got some really, I'm getting some ideas together. Just, it's always that thing of like getting the funny out of it. But yeah, I'm sort of also dreaming of writing a new show that is kind of, I write it from start to finish with, maybe some bits stuck in there, but kind of bringing together a bit more of a structure. I've been reading Stuart Lee's How I Escaped the Certain Fate of a Stand-Up, or the Certain Death. How I Escaped the Certain. Hold on, what's the name of it? How I Escaped My Certain Fate. Stuart Lee's. It's got 3 of his stand-up like solos in it, and then him writing notes about it, and very inspiring shit. So feeling quite ready to challenge myself and do something. I don't know, just challenge myself writing wise and see what I can achieve. Yeah, doing 2 shows back to back, 4 nights a week. 2 solo shows back to back, all by yourself. I felt like crowd work as well, because Melbourne's not a very crowd work heavy city. They just don't do it that much, because I think audiences are already educated in how stand-up works. So it was interesting. Yeah, I feel like my crowd work skills even got a little bit stronger whilst I was there. And yeah, and my and also doing 2 shows that are pretty set pieces back to back every night, like the monotony of that, of course, like crowd work, and you find ways of making it interesting for yourself and injecting it with the emotion that it needs to have for it to be meaningful for everybody in the room. But by doing that, yeah, that desire to do something and to challenge myself with my stand-up and what I do next is quite strong. So yeah, I feel like this episode is a very good indicator of just how much maybe that ADHD diagnosis might help me. But nah, guys, I'm good. I'm grateful for you all. I haven't seen the stats of what these podcast recordings how they've been listened to, but I also need to cut up some clips and advertise it again. But more Estes Nonsense is coming. If you haven't checked out Estes Nonsense, the full episodes are up on YouTube. That's where I am the comedian host for the Safe for Work channel of an ethical porn company. There's a lot of words in there, but yeah, I need to write some material about that. I'm finally working for a porn company, guys. That's kind of the angle there. Where are the jokes? There's gotta be some jokes there, guys. But anyway, this has been Adults Only Comedy Berlin. Back in Berlin. I'm Anna Beros. Love you guys. Thanks so much, and goodbye.